Well, good morning. I hope your weekend is treating you well. We had family over yesterday, Chrissy's mom and her sisters and her cousin. And it was just nice because we've never had anybody to our new place yet. Besides, Molly came over once. So that was cool last week. With COVID, we really maybe had 3 people in our house for the last 2 years. So it was just a real treat to have family over and hang out. I don't know what you guys had going on. We've had a roller coaster of weather from 0 to 50 and 40-mile-an-hour gusts and a winter squall, which I had to look up what that meant. That was a joke. And so it's been a week, and last week it was part 2 of young Joseph's story. And it paralleled part 1 of young Joseph's story. And it explained favor, life, new life, favor. He's favored by his dad, Jacob. Then he gets thrown in a pit by his brothers. Part 1. Part 2, he's favored in Potiphar's house. He becomes the overseer of his house. Then he gets thrown in prison. Now we are on to part 3. And it's interesting because we find out that Joseph has a superpower. And his superpower is interpreting dreams accurately. He's got an uncanny knack for it. In Genesis 40, he interprets the dreams of 2 of Pharaoh's staff, a cupbearer and a baker. And let me tell you, one story's positive and one story's fatal. These dreams they had were pretty intense. I'm not going to go over them, but in the end, Joseph says to the cupbearer, "Oh, you're going to win the Pharaoh's favor back." These 2, the cupbearer and the baker, had been put in prison with Joseph. He said, "You're going to win the favor back. You're going to be back on staff. You're going to be the chief cupbearer." And he says to the baker, "You're going to get impaled and die." It's like, goodness gracious, Joseph, use your superpowers, but not like that. So 3 days later, after this interpretation, Pharaoh has a birthday party. And it's just fun and games. Restoring the chief cupbearer, impaling the baker. What a birthday, This is kind of like a lot of stories in the Bible, and that's how it goes down. And see, the cupbearer was supposed to tell Pharaoh that Joseph has a superpower, but the cupbearer forgot for 2 whole years. So Joseph sits in prison for another 2 years until Pharaoh has a dream, a couple dreams. And Pharaoh's like, "I need someone to interpret this stuff because this stuff's crazy." And all of a sudden the cupbearer's like, "Oh my goodness, I totally forgot. There's a guy downstairs, that Joseph guy, down in the basement in prison that could really interpret these things. Really bring him up, get him cleaned up, shave him, get him up here." And that's what they do. And then we turn to Genesis 41:14. It says, "Pharaoh sent for Joseph at once, and he was quickly brought up from the prison. After he shaved and changed clothes, he went in and stood before Pharaoh." So there's a lot of story here. There's a lot of content. So stay with me if you can. Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "I had a dream last night, and no one here can tell me what it means. But I've heard that when you hear about a dream, you can interpret it." Joseph says, "It is beyond my power to do this," Joseph replied, "but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease." So, a little weird to me. Joseph says, "It's beyond my power to do this, but God can tell you," because Joseph does it. So Joseph's saying it's beyond his power, so I'm confused. But what Joseph is doing is he's giving credit to God for this being the source, God being the source of his power. So that's what he does, and we'll come back to that in a minute. So bookmark that moment, this last verse. It's beyond my power to do this, but God can tell you what it means. So bookmark that. And then we turn to the dream itself. So Pharaoh told Joseph his dream. "In my dream, I was standing on the bank of the Nile River. I saw 7 fat, healthy cows come up out of the river and begin grazing in the marsh grass. Then I saw 7 sick-looking, scrawny cows then come up after them." I've never seen such sorry-looking animals in all the land of Egypt. Then these scrawny cows ate the 7 fat cows, but afterward you wouldn't have known it, for they were still as thin and scrawny as before. And then I woke up. In my dream, I also saw 7 heads of grain, full and beautiful. So you're getting kind of a pattern here. growing up a single stalk. Then 7 more stalks of grain appeared, but they were blighted, shriveled, and withered by the east wind. And the shriveled head swallowed the 7 healthy heads. I told these dreams to magicians, but no one could tell me what they mean. Joseph responded, both of Pharaoh's dreams actually mean the same thing. God's telling Pharaoh in advance what he's about to do. The 7 healthy cows, 7 healthy heads of grain, both represent, so really all we need to know is these dreams represent 7 years of prosperity. The 7 thin, scrawny cows that came up later and the 7 thin heads of grain withered by the east wind, now we represent 7 years of famine. So Joseph interprets the dreams to say, we're about to have 7 years of great, the golden years, 7 golden years, and then 7 horrible years of famine. Nothing will grow. It will be a horrible, horrible time. So he shares all of this, and he interprets these dreams, which actually will have massive implications on not only Egypt, but like all of Mesopotamia, and that's the land of Canaan is involved there. And why does that matter? Because that's where Joseph's family is. So his dreams that Pharaoh had are impacting everyone in the known world pretty much. And that's where we're at. So we come to verse 16 again, the bookmarked verse. It is beyond my power to do this, but God can tell you what it means and set you at ease. It's beyond my power to do this. That really stuck out to me, and it stuck out to me for the last 15 or 20 years. And I know that because I was with someone in a meeting, and I pulled my old Bible out. My old Bible in Genesis 41 had just this underlined from 15 or 20 years ago. So I was like, I got to look into this. Why did that mean something to me then? So I thought it was pretty cool. And what I found from this that I find interesting is that Joseph has a supernatural gift, and I think we all do too. I think we all have a superpower, maybe 1 or 2. Someone told me their superpower was crying with grieving people. Someone else told me taking care of the sick was their superpower. Someone else said organizing fun events was their superpower. You know, it's like a pattern here. All of these things are superpowers that we give to other people that aren't meant to be kept to ourselves. You know, crying with the grieving, taking care of the sick, organizing fun events for people. That's it, the gift. And it makes sense. It's called a gift. You give gifts to others. That's what they're for. This gift is meant to be shared. It's not meant to be stored up and protected. I think it's given for the life of the world. So what is your superpower? Do you feel some sense of shame to even share it? Do you feel that a little bit? Like, I don't want to share it. I feel like that's arrogant or prideful to share this gift. And why is that? Why do we sometimes feel that way? Like we're bragging. Well, I thought there was a really good commentary on this passage where Joseph says this, and they describe it this way. Joseph gives honor to God. He says, it's not me. God must give it. Great gifts appear most graceful and illustrious when those that have them use them humbly. And take not the praise to themselves, but give it to God. Which I actually think, I did not put that in here. Good. To such God gives more grace. So when we share our gifts humbly, we know to whom the credit is due. When we share our gifts humbly, we know to whom the credit is due. And I wrote this down, glorifying. Worshiping God is simply acknowledging to whom the credit is due. That's super simple. It's like this awareness. You know what? That's not from me. You know what? All I have, all I've ever had, who I've become, who's shaping me, the people in my life, the resources, it's not from me. The credit is due to God. Now, of course, that doesn't always mean we must tag every compliment someone gives us with oh, I couldn't do that without God. Let me explain this. This is a little side note, just a little side note. But I was thinking about it. When I was first singing at my home church in Indiana, someone would compliment me on my voice every once in a while, and I felt awkward. I didn't really know how to respond. Like, how do you respond to that? And I would say something like, oh, that's not me, it's the Holy Spirit working through me. I was like, why does that feel so weird? Why does it feel weird me saying that? And it felt more like a humble brag, than glorifying God. It was like I was saying, oh, I know it was so good. It was like I was riding on wings of eagles. And did you feel that? How God worked through me? That's kind of what it felt like. The point being, sometimes a simple thank you is really dignifying the compliment giver. Just a simple thank you. And I guess I kind of learned that over time. Like, oh, I don't have to respond that way. I know where the credit is due for anything good in my life, So the gifts we share, our superpowers, seem to be meant for others. And when we think of it that way, I think it might be easier to not feel shame about the gifts we have and the way we can share them. So I was reading this fascinating cat magazine that my kids got me. Maybe Chrissy got me it. I'm not sure. Yes, you did. For Valentine's Day. She got me a cat magazine. It was like science about cats, which I love science about anything. So I was like, I'm reading this. I want to figure out what's happening. So I was reading a section, and there's this study on, it's from the Journal of the Acoustical Society of America. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds really important. So the journal said this, and cats have the ability to heal pain. Cats have the ability to heal pain. That's actually scientific. It's a strong, strong theory. Cats purr naturally at 25 hertz. 25 hertz. That's the frequency. Very low, as we know, if you've ever heard a cat purr. Well, why is that important? When they come and lay on your lap after you've had surgery or you're sick, and they lay there and they're warm like a water bottle or something, and they purr right there, why is that healing? Well, frequencies between 15 and 35 hertz are used to heal bone fractures and muscle tears and stimulate bone marrow growth. And cats do that. So this low vibration frequency that scientists figured out needed to be used was already happening with this animal that's inside a lot of our houses that sits on our lap. They have no idea they're doing that, I don't think. But they can heal. That's a cat's superpower. It's kind of crazy. I think our superpowers are like that. They have a healing effect on each other when we use them. Crying with those who grieve. Have you seen? Have you felt that? That is a superpower. I believe one of my superpowers is seeing superpowers in others. I feel like that's my superpower. And next week, I'll be taking some time to acknowledge some of our members who have served faithfully behind the scenes. And that's one of my favorite things to do. That's why I know it's a superpower. Because it's just like, I get so much energy from being able to talk about other people's gifts and ways they've given to others. And so that's exciting for me. So I'll be doing that. So I guess the question is, what is your superpower? And how do you use it? How do you use it for others, for the life of the world around you? This is how Joseph used his superpower. So we read on right here, in Genesis 41:29, Joseph tells Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. Hey, wait a second. I got way too far ahead. I think this particular slide got screwed up, but that's okay. I'll read from here. Don't even look up there. Okay. So this is what Joseph tells Pharaoh in 41:29. The next 7 years will be a period of great prosperity through the land, but afterwards 7 years of famine, so great that all the prosperity will be forgotten. This famine will be so severe that even the memory of the good years will be erased. So then Joseph lays out this elaborate strategy to store 1/5 of all the crops that grow for that 7 years of harvest. And then there's enough left over for the famine across this whole region, which is crazy. And Joseph's like, you need to just find some wise person to pull this off. And who do you think Pharaoh chooses? Pharaoh chooses Joseph. So Joseph becomes the second in command in all of Egypt after being thrown in a pit, thrown in prison, and now he's second in command. And so this is where I was going to read from. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the entire land of Egypt. And then Pharaoh removed his signet ring from his hand and placed it on Joseph's finger. He dressed him in fine linen and hung a gold chain around his neck. Then he had Joseph ride in the chariot reserved for his second in command. And wherever Joseph went, the command was shouted, kneel down. So Pharaoh put Joseph in charge of all of Egypt. And Pharaoh said to him, I am Pharaoh, but no one will lift a hand or foot in the entire land of Egypt without your approval. So we have favor, sold into slavery, favor, thrown into prison, and favor. This is the redemptive cycle all over again. It continues as Joseph uses his superpower to save the known world over the next 14 years. And our pastoral intern, Molly, who just shared the announcements and offerings, she'll resume the story of Joseph next week from the pulpit. Let's pray. God, thank you so much for how you have worked inside of each one of us to have gifts that sometimes we don't even realize are truly superpowers, gifts that heal each other, even in small, gradual ways. And I just pray that as we live in the bigger story, the redemptive cycle, the cycle of life, living and suffering and dying and burial, and just remembering that redemption still comes after the dying, because in the winter, spring always follows. New life is always coming. And I pray that as we move together, that we walk in agreement together, in covenant together, God, that you will open our eyes and ears to how you want us to be your hands and feet in this community. And I thank you for opportunities that are already springing up. God, let us feel your grace, your mercy, and your peace today. In your heavenly name, amen.